So at this point, I have a lot of finger marks and everything like that in my fish design. So we need to get rid of those. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a couple of tools. And some of the tools that I'm going to use might be a little bit unconventional. You might find them a little bit odd, but that's okay. As long as we get the design across, that's all that really matters. So I'm going to use a couple of different tools to create some of the effects that I want, okay? And I'm kind of trying to remember where my design was. Oh yeah, there it is, okay? So there's my fish that I'm making. Here's my design that I've got here. And I need to make not only the scales of the fish, because that's going to help people believe that it's a fish, but I also need to add in the fins. Now that's what a fork, I think this is part of a comb, and then a smaller comb. So I've got a couple of different detail things that I can use to create that. Now the other thing that I want to do is I want to make scales, all right? Which way do scales on a fish go? That's kind of an important thing. Usually the curve, I believe, is towards the back. Might have to look that up just before I get to do that. But want to make sure that we get those correct. So people that are looking at it going, oh, okay, that looks like a fish, and not like, what in the world is that thing? So that's usually a good important thing to think about as we're building this. Now you might be wondering, what do I do about the newspaper on the inside? Nothing. You don't have to worry about it. Believe it or not, what we'll do is somewhere in a very inconspicuous spot, we'll poke a little hole just so that the gases and stuff of the newspaper as it burns up in the kiln want to escape. We'll have a place for it to escape and it'll just disappear. And actually the ash that's left behind will stay inside the fish because nobody's ever gonna see it. So it works out good that way. All right. So let's talk about first, since I know the fins, okay, have to go a certain way. Now when I was pinching, it kind of stretched some of the clay a little bit. I can refine that a little bit if I want to, so that way I don't have to worry about it so much, okay? So I'm gonna go like that. I'm gonna make this line a little bit cleaner. You know, so you can do some cleanup as you want. Maybe this is a little bit flatter because this is the top of the nose, okay? So I'm looking at like this part of my fish here, which doesn't have the little fins, but this part up here does, all right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start creating a bunch of lines. Now, these lines may not go exactly as I want them to begin with, okay? And that's okay. Maybe they're not quite as thick as I want, or maybe they're too thick. Maybe they're, you know, something that I don't want done. I can always change this later on. I can always come back and fix this, if you will, okay, if I'm not really happy with it. Again, one of the beauties of clay and ceramics. So now what I can do is use my hand to really just kind of smooth out and make that clean line, just like a real fish would have, okay? So you can see that this is starting to look a lot more realistic, okay? So I can smooth that out with just my finger, so the areas that I want to be smooth, or eventually I'm gonna add in the scales of it, okay? Can go there. I'm probably gonna add a little bit more down here because I think that's the way that fish looked as far as the design, because that's one of the things I liked about it. So I'm gonna keep working on this a little bit. Hopefully you guys don't tip over. Oop, almost lost you. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep working on this a little bit, and then we'll come back and look at this in just a few minutes, okay? And there we go. So I got the top fins and the lower fins done, okay? I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of it, but we're gonna flip it over to the other side. Also wanna do the tail fins as well. So I'll do a little time lapse on that, and that way you can watch it in high speed.